The roar of engines echoed through the quiet back road as a group of leather-clad bikers rode in formation, the morning sun slicing through the mist like sharp blades of light. Their jackets bore a skull with wings, a sign that usually made people step aside. But this wasn't a gang built on cruelty. It was a brotherhood forged by loyalty, pain, and the promise of protecting their own. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a small figure burst from the bushes and stumbled onto the road, waving his arms frantically. The lead biker hit the brakes hard, the tires screeching. Dust rose as the other bikers came to an abrupt halt behind him. Standing in the middle of the road was a little boy, no older than 8. His small hands were trembling, and his dark skin was streaked with tears and dirt. "Please. They took my mama," he cried out, his voice cracking with desperation. The bikers looked at each other, unsure if this was a trap or the truth. But one look at that boy's terrified eyes was enough to melt through even the hardest exterior. Bear, the towering leader of the group with arms like tree trunks and a face carved from years of pain, slowly removed his helmet, crouched down, and asked in a gravelly voice, "Who took her, kid?" The boy's breathing was ragged. "A black van. They grabbed her when she was getting water from the store. I tried to scream, but they pushed me. Please help me. Please." The boy's words hit them like thunder. No one in the Brotherhood had kids of their own anymore. But they all remembered what it felt like to lose something, or someone, precious. Without a moment's hesitation, Bear turned to his crew. "We ride," he said simply. What happened next wasn't planned. It was instinct. Engines roared like a storm as the bikers turned their machines around, following the dirt trail the boy had pointed to. The boy, still shaking, was lifted gently onto the back of Bear's bike. The power of the engine beneath him was unlike anything he'd ever felt. But in that moment, it gave him something he had lost: hope. The bikers split into 2 groups, their wheels chewing up the dirt as they chased the scent of danger. Bear's group headed toward an abandoned warehouse by the river, a place everyone in the town whispered about but no one dared to enter. The boy held onto Bear tightly. Whispering through sobs, they said they'd sell her. "Please hurry." Those words burned through Bear's veins like fire. He had lost his little sister years ago to men like those, and he had sworn never to let it happen to anyone again. The warehouse loomed ahead like a beast waiting in the shadows. The bikers parked their bikes in silence, their boots crunching against gravel. Bear motioned with his hand. Years of riding together had made them more like a unit than friends. They didn't need words. One biker circled to the back. Another climbed up onto the roof. And Bear kicked down the main door with the force of a hammer. Inside, the stench of sweat, gasoline, and fear hit them. A group of rough-looking men turned in shock, their cigarettes falling from their lips as they saw the leather jackets storming in like a thunderclap. "Who the hell?" one of them started, but Bear was already moving. His fist met the man's jaw with a crack that echoed off the walls. Chaos exploded. The boy's mother was tied to a chair, gagged and terrified, her wrists raw from struggling. The moment she saw her boy peeking from behind the doorway, her muffled sob turned into a desperate cry. "Mama!" The boy screamed, and that sound was all Bear needed. One by one, the bikers took down the kidnappers, with a kind of ruthless precision that comes not from hatred but from purpose. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Within minutes, the men were on the ground, groaning, handcuffed with zip ties the bikers always carried. Bear ripped the tape from the woman's mouth gently and cut the ropes around her wrists. Her first instinct wasn't to breathe or even to stand. She threw her arms around her son, pulling him so tight it was as if she feared the world might take him too. Tears streamed down both their faces as she whispered, "I thought I'd never see you again." The boy clung to her, his small body shaking, but now it wasn't from fear, it was from relief. Bear watched silently, his jaw clenched, the fire in his chest slowly cooling. He wasn't used to thanks, but when the woman looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude and trembling with emotion, He felt something shift inside. "You saved us," she whispered. Bear shook his head. "No. He saved you. He ran to us." "That took courage." The boy sniffled, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Looking up at Bear like he was some kind of giant hero from the stories his mother used to tell him. One of the bikers called the police anonymously, dropping their location and disappearing into the wind before the flashing lights could arrive. That's how they worked. They weren't saints, they weren't angels. But when the world turned its back, they stepped in. As the woman and her son were taken to safety, Bear and his crew mounted their bikes again. The boy ran back out one last time and shouted, "Thank you." His small voice cut through the rumble of engines like sunlight breaking through clouds. Bear lifted his hand in a simple salute before speeding off into the horizon. The following week, word spread around the town about the mysterious bikers who saved a mother and her son. No one knew their names, but everyone felt safer knowing they were out there. The boy carried that day in his heart forever. Not just as a story of terror, but as proof that heroes sometimes wear leather and ride with thunder beneath them. And Bear? He carried that boy's cry in his soul, a reminder of the vow he made long ago. That no child would be left alone if he could stop it. Their paths crossed for only a moment. But that moment became a lifetime memory. A flame of hope in a world that often forgets how to care. And maybe, just maybe, the next time people saw a pack of bikers riding down the road, they didn't look away in fear, they nodded in quiet respect. As the bikers disappeared into the horizon, the boy held his mother's hand tightly, their hearts still racing. "They saved us, Mama," he whispered, eyes shining with hope. She nodded through her tears, holding him close. Bear glanced back once, a faint smile crossing his rugged face. He didn't need thanks, just the quiet knowing they were safe. Sirens wailed in the distance as the sun broke through the clouds. That day, a boy learned heroes can ride on roaring bikes, not wear shining capes. Days passed, but the memory of that night burned bright in the boy's heart. The town spoke in hushed tones about the mysterious bikers who saved a mother and her child. The boy returned to the roadside every evening, hoping to hear the rumble of engines again. His mother had found her strength too, no longer living in fear but in gratitude. Meanwhile, Bear sat in his garage, wiping the dust from his helmet. He couldn't forget the boy's trembling voice or the way his small hands clung to hope. That moment reminded him why he rode, not just for freedom, but to protect those the world ignored. One evening, as the boy stood near the road, a familiar sound grew louder. The bikers returned, headlights cutting through the twilight. Bear stopped in front of him, handing him a leather patch. "For bravery," he said. The boy smiled, clutching it to his chest as if it were gold. It wasn't just a patch. It was a promise. Heroes don't vanish, they ride on, unseen but never forgotten. And from that day forward, the boy carried courage in his heart, just like the bikers carried thunder in their souls.